My side, man, ain't no telling where I'll be. Can't nobody tell me nothing different. The Father's been good to me, so good to me. Yeah, wave your hands if you feel me. I'm a witness. Yahweh's been good to me, so good to me. Every morning that I rise, I thank Yahweh that I'm living. Keep my enemies at bay and never leave without my fringes. 1611 with me cause I'm on a mission. Talking sheep, I pay the cost, me and my lines really live it. I don't need no glory, you don't have to know my story. Glad I made it out this world cause this world was never for me. I thought that I was. If it wasn't for the Most High who was on my side, man, ain't no telling where I'll be. Can't nobody tell me nothing different. The Father's been good to me, so good to me. Yeah, wave your hands if you feel me. I'm a witness. Yahweh's been good.
Good day to everybody that's going to be tuning in to this class, to this lesson. I'm about to get on the stage real quick for y'all. Just give me 1 minute. All right, approaching in 3, 2, 1. How y'all doing? It is Wednesday, another video upload for True Nation World History from Abraham unto Isaac, Abraham's son or eventual son. As we get to this, so we're just chopping up the book of Genesis right now. You know, the first 5 books is Torah, so the history is definitely an aspect of Torah to know and to understand, because believe it or not, your ascendancy, talking about the present day, matters as far as what we're doing in the congregations and in the churches and stuff like that, for so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans. Your ascendancy, your predecessors, your forefathers, they matter because believe it or not, bloodline, descendancy, talking about the past now, that matters as far as what this word is concerned with. Of course, you know, as we're going to read, Abraham's going to be the father of many nations and blessing many nations. But within that being said, the future of his seed, Israel, is going to be at the forefront or the threshold between the spirit of the Most High God Yahweh and then everything else under that, the earth, the peoples, all those things. So who we descend from in the blood is important, and this is a history lesson concerning that with our predecessor Abraham. So let's get to the book of Genesis. That's pretty much all we're going to be in this day in Genesis. Genesis chapter 11, and I'm going to start from verse 10. So this little subheader, Shem's line, Shem, one of the descent or the direct son from Noah, from Shem unto Abram. So Abram, not Abraham, this man, Abram, same guy, but name change was not made yet. So let me read this for you. Genesis 11 and 10. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he begat Arphaxad 500 years and begat sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 35 years and begat Selah. And Arphaxad lived and he begat Selah 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Selah lived 30 years and begat Eber. And Selah lived after he begat Eber 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 and begat Peleg. And Eber lived after he begat Peleg in the 430 years and begat sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years and begat Reu. And Peleg lived after he begat Reu 209 years and begat sons and daughters. And Reu lived 32 years and begat Serug. And Reu lived after begat Serug 207 years and begat sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years and begat Nahor. And Serug lived after begat Nahor 200 years and begat sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years and begat Terah. And Nahor lived after begat Terah 119 years and begat sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. So Terah has a son named Nahor, and his father also is named Nahor. So don't get confused with that. Verse 27. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begat Lot. So Lot is important to Abraham. And you can see because the three brothers, Abraham, Nahor, and Haran, Lot would be Abraham's nephew in this regard. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees. And Abraham and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah and the father of Iscah. But Sarai was barren; she had no child for a very long time. A couple 10+ chapters in, we're going to see. So now, Terah moves to Haran. So there's a lot of moving around going. Basically, the point of origin, if you don't know where Ur the Chaldees is, that's like a southernmost part of Babylon, which today would be like modern day Iraq, that area, that state. But Mesopotamia, Babylon, and Ur being a city within the empire of Babylon at the time. That's where this is at. So think of the Fertile Crescent, think of the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers. Think over on that particular side, looking at a map, you would be looking at the east part of the Fertile Crescent where the Euphrates River is. That's the general area where Ur the Chaldees, Mesopotamia, Babylon is. And this is where we're going to see an exit from at this point in time through initiated by Terah, but continued with Abram. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran begat Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity, Ur the Chaldees. And Abram and Nahor took them wives. We read that. Let me jump to verse 31. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And they went forth from them from Ur the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Chapter 12. Now when the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So now we see Abram at this point in time, the Most High God Yahweh is telling him to leave the place where you were, used to, and where you were born at, and where your families and descendancies come from. And this is an important thing and a big thing too, because you read later on in the scriptures, like such as in the book of Daniel, these same people, but in a long generations after, they becomes the rulers that destroy the Persians and Medes. These same Chaldeans, and the Chaldeans later in the future, away from far removed from Abraham, they're known to be, a wise people, in astronomy and mathematics and basically what you would want to say occult science, which is basically science beyond your reasonable means as a man. So living in Babylon and Babylon being known for, its mystery religions and Nimrod, becoming a god amongst men, the history of the Babylonian history actually goes with Gilgamesh. And if you read that epic, that mythological story that the Neo-Babylonians, record from early days after the flood and such like that. All that is tied in and associated with the spirit and the culture of Babylon, namely the worship of other gods and the customs that come along with that. So God, the true God, Yahweh, is now telling Abram, look, get out of this particular place because it's not going to do you any good. And since you, out of all your brother and your family, no different than Noah, I'm choosing you out of all these people to establish what we're going to see, a particular promise to, I need you to, go off of some faith like you've been doing with me so far, and then you're going to keep doing with me and leave these people, your family and your people behind. You need to go to a new place and become a new man. So that was the case with Abram and his instruction with the Most High at this point in time. Verse 2 in chapter 12. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So now Abraham is, going to enter the land of Canaan. So Abraham departed, as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. And Abraham took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten into Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. Into the land of Canaan they came, and Abram passed through the land unto the place of Sichem, and the plain of Moreh. And the Canaanite was then in the land, the Canaanite and all his descendants that you read about in Genesis 10. All his descendants, and then others as well that aren't necessarily in that tables of nations bloodline, as we're going to see in a moment. Verse 6. And Abram passed through the land unto the place of Sichem, unto the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanite was there in the land. And the Lord appeared unto Abram and said, unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto the Lord, Yahweh, who appeared unto him. And he removed from thence unto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Hai on the east. And there he built an altar unto the Lord, and called upon the name of Yahweh, the Lord. And Abraham journeyed, going on still towards the south. So man, Abraham is van life in it right now. He's just going, well, not back, but he's going forth. He's going forth and side to side, going wherever he needs to go, and dedicating altars, signs and monuments to the Most High as he does the thing, and not swaying in his faith, even though he made it to the land regardless. All right, so verse 10. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there. So guess what? Just a little world history tidbit. Egypt was, at this point in time in the generation, I'm going to say there's a dude in the 1800s that basically calculated, the time in the world, and then at this particular time in the 1800s, he calculated the world's age after Adam's, fall from immortality. In the 1800s, it was 5,000 years since being kicked out of the garden. So at this point in time with Abram, this is about, in modern timekeeping standards, this is like the 19th century BC. So like 19, not 19, like 98, 1958. This is around this time, as we're recording like modern timekeeping coordinates. This is about that time, and that's pretty much about give or take like 16 to 2,000 years after Adam's being kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and him receiving mortality, the ability to die. Because, Adam was living to like close to 900 and some change years old. So, that's a big thou wow, with him. But, this is just the time period with this. Verse 10. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass when he was come near to enter into Egypt that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say that this is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And it came to pass that when Abraham was coming to Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her and commended her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abraham well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen and asses and men servants and maidservants and asses and camels. So apparently, in a lot of these, most of these godless or non-God-fearing cities and countries and states, they would it was a custom apparently to take a stranger's not necessarily their wife, but take a stranger's whoever they may be, brother or rather sister or female servant. It was apparently a big thing because, as we're going to see, it was not only the Egyptians that had a tendency to do these things, but it was other nations that were dwelling within the Canaanite Egyptian region that did this. So the Pharaoh was the first one, to encounter Abram and to do this, and took Sarai, his wife, that they didn't know, and and treated him like, look, give me her, but we'll give you all these. So Abram at this point in time is not really he's not really saying anything and doing anything. Now he's just allowing the Most High, because he trusts in the Most High and he knows the laws of the Most High, and he knows what happens to those that break the laws of the Most High, especially when it was taught to all of his ascendancies, his great uncles and stuff like that come from Ham and Japheth. It's not like they didn't know and it wasn't to certain ones of them, but it's just that peoples decide to do their own thing and to follow their own ways and to follow their own God and customs. So in this instance, we're gonna see right now. Verse 14. And it came to pass when Abram was coming to the Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman that she was very fair. And the princes also of Pharaoh saw her and commended her before Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen and asses and men servants and maidservants and she asses and camels. And the Lord, Yahweh, plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why didst thou not tell me that she was thy wife? Why saidst thou, She's my sister, so I might have taken her to me to wife? Now therefore, behold thy wife, take her and go thy way. So the peoples were not, at this point in time, they weren't that degraded and to commit such a great sin as to commit adultery. They just didn't know. And Abram was just like, well, I'd rather stay alive and just be safe than sorry, because like if I die anyway, they could just take you. So if you just say you're my sister, it'll be well for both of us, and the Most High will defend us, and that's what happened right here. The Most High plagued the Pharaoh's house, and they had to figure out why. And they did figure out why, because she was a married woman. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away, and his wife, and all that he had. And chapter 13. And Abram went up out of Egypt, and he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, into the south. Abram was very rich in his cattle, and silver, and in gold. And he went on his journeys, even from the south to Bethel, even unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Bethel and Hai, unto the place of the altar which he had made there at the first. There Abram called on the name of Yahweh, the Lord. So Abram is thanking the Most High now, for sparing his wife in judgment unto the Egyptians, which he must have known what was going to happen. That was a safeguard, because why would Abram just be like, look, just call me, your brother, and we're just going to go from there. There is definitely some faith in the Most High that he would do something to anyone that would transgress his laws. Abram that's the faith he had in the Most High. And we're going to see that continuing through on. Verse 5. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together. For their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled then in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, let there not be any strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Is not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. And if thou wilt take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of the Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere before the Lord. Destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar. So that's an interesting little tidbit there. Give you a little hint of where it was, even as the garden of the Lord, is letting you know this is the region where the Garden of Eden is. And if you look into the earlier chapters in Genesis, it tells you the Garden of Eden was surrounded by the Tigris, the Euphrates, the Pison, and the Hiddekel rivers. When you look at a map today, the Euphrates and the Tigris has not changed. The only thing that has changed a little bit is where the Pison and the Hiddekel River is. And I believe that they, for the most part, have dried up, but you can kind of still see some remnants of some rivers on the western portion of the Fertile Crescent. They don't reach as long as the Euphrates and the Tigris, but you can still, reading enough history books and such like that, see how names have been renamed over time. You can pinpoint, and pretty much what you need to know is that the whole Fertile Crescent region area, from the Nile River unto the Euphrates, that's where the Garden of Eden was. And then in this reference is saying things got destroyed, such as Sodom and Gomorrah, as we're going to read on in a moment. Verse 11. Then Lot chose him all the plains of Jordan, all the plains of Jordan towards the east, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. And Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan on the western part, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent towards Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. Verse 14. And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward, and southward, and eastward, and westward. And for all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it, and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. Then Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. So, unfortunately, but not really unfortunately, Lot wasn't supposed to be part of that. That's why the Most High did what he had to do. The Most High, like he did anyone with Abraham's descendancies, he gives them enough substance. He blesses them. He's like, yeah, I heard what you were saying, but my covenant is with so and so and so and so, you and him and that. So everybody else that that's tagging along with you, which you as a man, I know you cherish, you love, but they gotta separate. I'm making divisions right now, which is actually tracing back to the Shem account, all its descendancies. There's a particular man named Peleg, and it says the earth was divided in those days. So that's when the Most High is actually, from the Tower of Babylon, with the division of languages or the confusion of languages. That's when the Most High started, separating peoples. Like, all right, like, look, man, y'all are y'all two, at one. I need to make distinctions between y'all because not all of y'all are going to be my chosen people. So everyone from, Peleg all the way down to Abram and the separation, Most High is making those divisions. I believe in the book of Deuteronomy. I believe in it's in chapter 30 or 32. I don't have the exact precept right now, but in those chapters it says that when the Most High divided the nations according to the number of the children of Israel. So the Most High is a man of order, and separation comes with that order. And Lot had to be removed at least from the inheritance of Abram at this time. So Abram now is like, I got all of pretty much Canaan. Lot is east of the Jordan River, closer to where Sodom is at this point in time. Verse 16 in chapter 13. I'll make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that a man can number the dust of the earth. Then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it, and in the breadth of it, for I'll give it unto thee. And Abram moved his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. So that's Abram getting settled in. Chapter 14. Chapter 14 is an interesting chapter because now we have a more world history aspect to it, and I'm gonna hopefully uncover, in time frame who some of these people are. But let me read this. Chapter 14, Battle of the Kings. So it came to verse 1, and it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Iraq, king of Elasar, and Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that these nations made war with Bera, king of Sodom, the same Sodom of Sodom and Gomorrah, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Sinab, king of Admah, and Shimbar, king of Zeboim, and king of Bela, which in Zoar. So I want to get something for you guys real quick because I did have some information that I was looking into sometime. 2 kings, the king of Shinar and the king of Elam. I want to get you guys just an understanding of the time frame with this, so you can because this is all real. This is all real history, and these are all real nations and real people that, in the biblical sense, they have titles that encompass their spirit. But when you look into like an archaeological, secular world history view of these things, they don't exactly all the time, they don't tie up. Sometimes better than others, but as far as the names are concerned, like for Nimrod and such like that, and some of these kings right here, you're not gonna find these names in like the history of Elam or in the history of the kings of Mesopotamia. There's not gonna be the exact word verbatim, of the Hebrew with these kings. But when you can discern with historical accounts, we can put a good time frame. So this is what I want to say about this. So Amraphel, king of Shinar, was more than likely, if not a king above or a king below, as far as time frame, a man named Sumu Abum of Babylon. This was in around the 18th century BC and or the 19th century BC, 1894 BCE to be exact, was when this particular king reigned, Sumu Abum, and he's a contemporary with Abram at this particular time. So again, these are records of this particular king and what he did. Some of the other kings are a little bit more difficult to find that time frame from, but anybody within the 19th century, specifically within the 1890s BC, will be the contemporaries of nations such as Elam, again, the king of Shinar, which is Mesopotamia or Babylon. These are these people that you actually look up, what we're talking about here in chapter 14. So, once again, it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Sumu Abu, more than likely, Arioch, king of Eleazar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that all these kings made war with the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah and Admah and Zeboim and Bela. They made war with all these particular kings. So it was 5 against 4. Let me see. 1, 2, 3. 4 against 5. 4 against 5. Verse 3. And all these were joined together in the valley of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. So the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah and such like that, they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer, and the kings that are with him, and they smote the Rephaims in Ashtaroth Canarim, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Emims in Shaveth Kiriathaim, and the Horites in Mount Seir unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. So the thing about these people right here, when it says the Rephaim, the Zumim, the Emim, and the Horites, these are not peoples that you could find within the Genesis 10 account or the what is it called? I'm drawing a blank right now. The Table of Nations. These are not peoples that you find within the Table of Nations. You don't see the Zamzummim, the Horites, or the Emim. These are, or the Rephaim for that matter. These are when Genesis 6 says the Nephilim or the such like that, the great warriors, the Gibborim, they would exist in the time after the flood. That's what these peoples are. These are giants, pretty much. So these kings are now, fighting and getting rid of all these giants. And when you read in the time of David, you see that the remnants of the giants, their main specialty was warfare. So anything that had to do with destruction and death and for hire, that's what these peoples were utilized, or that's what they did best. Whatever they was doing, in the pre-flood is no different than they was doing after the flood as well too. So these kings in particular go out to fight them and destroy a good bulk of them. Verse 7, and they returned and came to En Mishpat, which is in Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites that dwelt in Hazar Tamar. And there went out the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zoar, and they joined battle with them in the valley of Siddim, with Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam, and with Tidal, king of nations, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Eleazar, 4 kings with 5. So again, that 4 against the 5. And the valley of Siddim was full of slime pits, and the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there, and they that remained fled to the mountains. And they took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all the victuals and went their way. So you see these 4 kings led by Amraphel, Tidal, and Chedorlaomer, they had a victory over the 5 kings, which included Sodom and Gomorrah, their kings, and including these race of giants as well too. So they had victory over all of them. So you definitely see this was a strong confederacy. I mean, and it only makes sense because you have, for one of the origins of civilization there, the Amraphel, the king of Sumer, pretty much, of Shinar, the king of Sumeria, Mesopotamia. He's in the mix, and his kingship descends from Nimrod, the great hunter before the Lord, who made himself, into a god such as Gilgamesh and all that. And as far as the flesh goes, they were a great and mighty people. But it's crazy right now because you're gonna see how Abram takes this turn. So, verse 12. So these particular kings, the 4 against the 5 that conquered the giants and 5 other great kings and nations. Verse 12. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, his nephew, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. So Lot just so happened to be caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time when these wars and these battles popped off. And there came one that escaped and told Abraham the Hebrew, the sojourner, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and brother of Aner, and these were confederate with Abram. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants. So Abram was not only a faithful man and a prophet, because he literally had spoken to the Most High the same way that Samuel, the seer, and First Samuel specifically, was hearing the Most High in his head, like out of nowhere. Abram had that same connection. That's what made him a prophet in that regards. And when Abraham heard his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants in his own house, 318. So 319 people, plus including Abraham. That's how many people he had with him to go to war, to get his brother back from the region of Sodom. But we're going to see right now. He and his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them unto Dan. Obviously, Dan didn't exist yet, but it's letting you know, contemporary-wise, the tribe of Dan, that tribal allotment. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants, by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and brought again his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and all the people. So you see, 319 people, including Abram, they fought victoriously against basically Chedorlaomer, Tidal, and Amram, the 4 out of the 5 that actually won, the ones that defeated the race of giants and such like that. Abram defeated those people that defeated those things. So you see that the Most High was with Abram with just 300 and some change people, which shows you that Abraham was definitely gifted and blessed by the Most High amongst all nations of people. He just ransacked with 300 people, which these armies, they probably had close to 1,000 or more, and Abraham's just coming in with that 300 number and some change to take back all for his nephew's sake. All to take back for his nephew's sake, because he loved his family and he was righteous like that, to bring back all their stuff. Because again, these kings, when they ransacked Sodom and Gomorrah and those other kings, they took Lot with them because Lot was in the crossfire. So Abram's might through the Most High was much mightier than those that defeated more armies than them and races of giants. Verse 16, and he brought back all the goods, and brought all again his brother Lot and his goods, and the women also, and the people. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer, and of the kings that were with him, again the 4, at the valley of Sheva, which is the king's dale. So again, verse 16, basically just I just said. Abraham literally, with 300 people, took on a whole army. And as you're going to continue with the covenant that the Most High promised to this man, this wouldn't be a one-time thing. There's so many stories of, let's call it, the lesser overtaking the more, happening over and over and over and over again with our people. It's amazing the Most High's the Most High's own military strategies and the things that he uses is, a matter of fact, is in the book of Psalms where it says that the Most High, he uses the elements. He'll use what the world will call today Mother Nature. He'll use those things, the storms, the tempests, the tornadoes, even new things. Tornadoes mingle with fire and brimstone. He'll use all those things and some heavenly stuff too, because the angels of the Most High, you know, in their chariots, they have some advanced technology packing with them too. So between the natural forces of the earth and the supernatural forces of the righteous angels of the Most High doing those things, you got a lot of might coming against the one true God, you know. And on top of all that, Abram's got like 300 armed servants that is coming in the cut, just taking care and doing business right after. It's amazing. Verse 18. So the king of Sodom is now coming to meet up with Abram. And now we see verse 18. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine. He was the priest of the Most High God. You guys should know that this is Christ before he was called Christ, before he was called Jesus, before he was called the Savior. This is him as the King of Peace. This is one of his titles that he has in his complete eternal existence. This was Christ also, also in the flesh at this time during Abram. 19. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thine hand. And he gave him tithes of all. So Abraham gave him tithes, gave tithes to Melchizedek, gave tithes to Christ, who was the original king and high priest. So, and that's why it says in the book of Hebrews, even before Levi, came about and the people gave tithes unto Levi for the Most High, Levi already gave tithes to the Most High through Christ, because of what Abraham did right here. Because Abraham carries the DNA of Levi to come within him, within his bowels. So that's what happened. Verse 19. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth, and blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thine hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a thread, even a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich. So yeah, Abram was smart. He knew how godless people work. People like to finesse and finagle and be like, oh, they'll be loving you and your friend in 1 minute, but then, a week or two later or a year or two later, they be wanting to get something from you and will have an evil eye towards you. So Abram's like, look, no, everything that's mine, which is my nephew and all that he had, those are the things that are coming back with me. Everything that was yours, keep that. Save for, which he's about to spam right now, save for everything that belongs to me, what they ate food-wise, that I'll reimburse you and pay you back for. But everything that originally was yours, I'm not trying to have a piece in that, because you have nothing to do with my wealth. You're not going to be, in the book of Proverbs, it says, drink waters from thy own cistern. Because again, the wrong people that you make confederacies with, godless people, they're always going to try to seek the upper hand, because what is it? It's man's fleshly and sinful nature to want to be on top, especially as a man, not even speaking as the woman, but the women want to be like that too nowadays. But it's in man's evil nature to want to find out any type of way to be in control, to be in power somehow, to essentially want to be a god to somebody. That's just something that we as within Israel and people in general, that's something that they struggle with every day. So Abram, being a God-fearing man with wisdom, realizes that and was like, nah, I'm not gonna let you tax me for anything, now or in the future, because even though, you're congratulating me and stuff like that, I didn't do it for you. I did it for my nephew's sake and all his substance, not for the king of Sodom, which is evil. Y'all are some evil people, as we're going to see in a quick future. Continue on 23. I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich. 24. Save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, and near Eshcol and Mamre, let them take their portion. So he's like, look, I know they probably ate some of your goods and your cattle and flocks and stuff like that. I'll pay you back with that. That's fine. But everything else, keep what you want. The Most High is blessing me, not you. Chapter 15, excuse me. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield, and thy exceeding great reward. As he knew, because the king of Sodom was definitely not Abram's reward, the Most High is. And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eleazar of Damascus, Assyrian, basically, a descendant of Shem, nonetheless, but not anyone the Most High had promised a covenant to, just a descendant of Shem. That's all he was. Verse 3. And Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. Verse 4. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thine heir. So not, this Eleazar of Damascus. And he brought him forth abroad and said, Look now towards heaven and tell the stars if thou be able to number them. Unfortunately, in L.A. and in most metropolitan cities, you can't even see the stars. So you don't even know, even outside of your major city, light pollution is destroying all that. And he's trying to say, look, your seed, your kids, or your descendancies, they're going to be in the likeness of all these stars. There's a lot of stars when you go to the darkest part of the world. That's a lot. So he's saying that's what your generations to come is going to be like. Look now towards heaven and tell the stars that thou be able to number them. And he said unto them, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. Verse 7. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, Take me an heifer of 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these, and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another. But the birds he divided not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And Abraham's deep sleep and vision. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, and horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and shall afflict them 400 years. So this is a very future prophecy. This is actually the prophecy dealing with America, which is not necessarily today, but our generation, our epoch, our time frame as Israelites, not in Israel, but in modern day Babylon, the spirit of Babylon, in America today. This prophecy was about us right now, which is such a long time, more than 3,000, more than 4,000 years, until this prophecy would come to pass, that Abram was given a vision to. So the Most High has already been altering and crafting, the worlds and realities, and everything has came to pass. And also that nation whom they shall serve, I will judge, and afterward they shall come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. So personal prophecy for you. Abraham, you're going to be all right. But in the fourth generation, they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So now he's talking about 4 generations from you right now, Abraham, which is going to be your son, his son, their sons, and then when they grow their tribes in Egypt, then they're going to return. So it's not going to be right now. Because why? But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again. For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So this is a whole nother world history escapade. But you can see in the times of Moses and in Joshua, the Amorites, a Canaanite descended people, and their dealings with nations of giant Rephaims, the Anakim, Og, king of Bashan, and the other one that was a king of Sihon. They had a lot of sin and intermingling with their customs, their ways, and their particular gods and stuff like that. You could look into extra biblical sources about how their culture was, the Hurrians or the Ugariot society, which was like the Hittites and stuff like that. You can see how they went about doing their things, ancestor worship and whatever it took for them to worship their ancestors, and all of that. You can see the wickedness. But it literally says right here, the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So the Most High is just waiting for these people to reach a certain amount of sin to be like, all right, now I'm done with you. There's nothing you could repent from. The repentance door is done. You just got to get destroyed. And that's what the Most High is waiting for these people that weren't going to repent from their ways, so that the land could be cleared and good for Israel to come to dwell. Verse 17, and it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace, something you make sacrifices with, and a burning lamp, probably something akin to the menorah, that passed between those pieces. And the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed I have given this land, from the river of Egypt, that's like the Nile, unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Again, that's the same borders that you hear earlier in Genesis with the Garden of Eden. This is how you know. At one point in time, this region was that garden, and then the rest of the world was the rest of the world. But the Fertile Crescent region, that's what you're going to get back. This is going to be home base for many thousands of years to come. Eventually, and even today, it hasn't even came to pass that we would actually obtain the whole Fertile Crescent. In that selfsame day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed I give this land, from the river Egypt unto the river the Euphrates, the land wherein the Kenites, and the Kenizzites, and the Kadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. They all dwell and occupy this land, but soon enough, they're going to not be here. They're going to be removed or subjugated. Chapter 16. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children. So remember again the dilemma. We read it first in the earlier parts of this Genesis before, with this lesson I started, that Sarai, she didn't have at the age of even like 75, she still had no kids. So she was already up there in age. An elder is basically 60, so you old at that point. In all righteousness and in all glory, you're old at that point. And she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, behold now, the Lord Yahweh hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go unto my maid, and it may be that I shall obtain children by her. And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. And Abram's wife took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be wife. And he went unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid unto thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes, and the Lord judged between me and thee. But Abram said unto Sarai, Behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as thou pleaseth thee. And Sarai dealt hardly with her, and she fled from her face. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of the water in the wilderness, and by the fountain in the way unto Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence camest thou, and whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress, Sarai. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Return to thy mistress, and submit thyself unto her hands. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly, that it shall be not numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. And he will be a wild man, and his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. So that's, the birth of Ishmael. You could see another lesson, breaking down Ishmael and the Arabs that they descend from another time, So Ishmael was born to Abraham through Hagar because of Sarai's hastiness, thinking that she wasn't going to have a proper heir and inheritance for the house of Abram. She told him to do this thing, but to her own disgust, apparently, she instantly regretted it. She's like, you know what, this is my fault upon you. And then, she runs away, but the Lord's like, nah, I'm not going to let you just, suffer for the hastiness or the mistake of someone else. I'm going to bless you. Just, go back to the house and, do what you do. Take care of your responsibilities, and I'm going to bless you. That was his response for Hagar and her descendants. Verse 15. And Hagar bare Abram a son, and Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abram. So 80 is 2, 4, 6, 8. That's 80 plus 6, 86 years old when this happened. Chapter 17. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, okay, so some, decade even after that, the Lord appeared unto Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Verse 5, neither shall thy name be any more Abram. Thank God, because I was forgetting this. Like I know him, the guy is Abraham, but reading the history, neither shall thy name be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made thee, and I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee, and to thy seed after thee. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, and all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said unto Abram, Thou shalt keep my covenant therefore thou and thy seed after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed forever after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised. So this is where we get the law of circumcision. This is the first instance. So the Most High has laws and universal truths and principles that existed since before the flood and even obviously after the flood. And you can see that with the little bit of righteousness that the king of Egypt had when he didn't want to commit adultery. Adultery was known throughout the world that was a capital offense against, if not just the Most High God, at least their gods, whatever they worship. It was understood that, even though we're doing our own thing with, this God here, we at least can attest that, yeah, adultery, that's a pretty bad thing. That's a pretty bad thing to do. So, all that being said, the Most High establishes memorials and things and covenants and promises and signs between them as he goes. You know, the Most High could start a whole new or can renew rather with us a new covenant and a new stipulation come with that 2 hours from now or a day from now if he wanted to. Is he? I mean, who could say? You know, but the fact that he did this with Abraham, and this is a custom that we still keep today, 4,000 years later, it's not hard to imagine that the Most High he can do whatever he wants, and it would all be righteousness and tie into his righteousness at the end of the day. So at this particular time, I'm just giving you guys like the frame of mind, like putting yourself in the present history at that time, how the Most High just goes about doing things. This is what he did with Abraham that we still keep as a memorial today, as a token today, to recognize us as being even from the stock of Abraham and of Israel, period. Verse 10, this is my covenant which ye shall keep between me and you and thy seed after thee. Every man child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you. Every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of thy seed. He that is born in thy house, and he that is bought with thy money, must needs be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised man child, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people, and he hath broken my covenant. So that's why it's very important, even with Passover, you know, some hundreds of years later, you can't even keep Passover without being circumcised, you know. So in your camps today, make sure your men and your peoples get that circumcision done, because that's how the Most High is going to accept you. This is the law. This is the law that he made it pre-Israel, but still counts towards Israel nonetheless. These are things that we have to do for the Most High to look upon us and to recognize us. One of many things, you know, that sets us apart, you know, a holy nation, right? That's what we're considered. And all because of Abraham's faith initially. And his upbringing and his teachings too by his fathers, you know. He definitely learned a good thing or two, but then there was something else in him kept him pushing for more. Verse 15. And God said unto Abram, as for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples shall be of her. And Abraham fell upon his face and laughed. And he said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? And Abraham said unto God, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. And God said, Sarah thy wife will bear thee a son indeed. And thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will bless my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I heard you. Behold, I blessed him already, and I will make him fruitful, and I will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes he's going to beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, his seed from you, which Sarah shall bear unto thee at this set time in the next year. And he left off taking with him, and God went up from Abram. Verse 23. And Abram took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were brought with his money, every male amongst the men of Abram's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day, as God had said unto him. And Abram was 90 years old at the time, 90 years old and 9, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Man, you can only imagine that. But he did. He was a trooper. And Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised and Ishmael his son. So I feel like it's just basically trying to tell you, whatever point in time that you come into this walk and you keep these covenant and these tokens, it don't matter what age you are. You got to go about doing this. Yes, some of us were blessed enough to receive the circumcision, at our birth, when I believe, like, in the 90s, 80s, or whatever, they were doing that. I think nowadays it's a little bit more difficult to get that done. I think you got to fight a little bit more harder to get the doctors today to get that circumcision. But regardless, there are ways. There's outside of your Kaiser Permanentes and your big pharma hospitals. There's more independent and specialized doctors that are out there that you might have to come a little bit more out of pocket with, but they will do this procedure for you. And whether you're 13 years old or 99 years old and everything in between, you get that circumcision to make sure the Most High recognizes that token, so He remembers you and He knows you as His people. So go forth, and go about doing that like our forefather did. 26. And the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son, and all the men of his house, born in the house, and bought with money of the stranger, were circumcised with him. Chapter 18. And the Lord appeared unto him in the plains of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of that day. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, three men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself towards the ground and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under this tree. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye your hearts. After that ye shall pass on, for therefore are ye come to your servant. And they said, So do as thou hast said. So you see, hospitality was a very big thing, Hospitality for guests, especially heavenly guests, angels of the Most High, let alone anybody that just needs your services. Hospitality is a big thing within our culture, and should continue to be a big thing within our culture. That's why you see all the things that happened in the book of Acts, how, the disciples and the apostles, they went basically from house to house in their teachings and their lessons, because at that point in time, the synagogue had got, torn down, as Christ had said. And a lot of the early Christians were just doing things within their own plots of lands and their own houses, strengthening each other. What's the word? Not embellish, exhorting each other, teaching each other, and comforting each other, with food and such like that, unleavened bread and crops and the cattle and such like that, like this. So again, that hospitality, let's not forget that. That's definitely something that makes us a great people, is our hospitality that we share one another. Let your people, within your house and stuff like that, cook for them. Let them, even if they need to, or if they want to, reimburse you. Paul in the New Testament said, like, look, I took nothing out of, basically, I took nothing free from the people that I stood with, Aquila, Priscilla, whoever. I didn't take nothing, like all those things that I borrowed and used from them, I paid back, because I didn't want nobody to say to me, hey, you use me, or you use me for your ministry. I taught the word to you in the doctrine, and now you paying me with your hospitality and food. Paul was like, no, just for the sake of blamelessness, I'm gonna give that back to you. So some people take that that heart and that spirit too, and Paul for his blameless, especially dealing with hard-headed Israelites and people that want to look at you some type of way. But again, originally, looking back at Abraham and so like that, hospitality was just in our heart and our nature. So it's a beautiful thing, to come over to someone's house and have a good meal. Have a good meal, and to reciprocate the same. Verse 6. And Abraham hasted to the tent unto Sarah and said, Make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meal for bread, knead it, and make cakes upon the hearth. And Abraham ran into the herd and fetched a calf, tender and good, big money, and gave it to a young man, not himself, he had someone to do that for him, and he hasted to dress it, to slaughter it, season it, all those things. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had dressed, cooked, and set it before them, and stood by them under the tree, and they did feast or eat. A good eat, I'm sure. Verse 9. And they said unto him, where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time of life. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door, which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old and well stricken in age, and it ceased to be with Sarah after the manner of women. So basically, she was too old to. Normally, in normal circumstances, she was too old to have kids. That's what that means. Therefore, Sarah laughed within herself, saying, after I am waxed old, that's a crazy word, waxed old. When you look at the waxing and the waning of the of the moon, you understand what she's really saying. She's like, I'm beyond my point. I am waxed old. Shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old also? And the Lord, this is the Most High speaking, in that today's medical terms, schizophrenia, you're hearing things. No, you're not hearing things. You're just hearing spirits. Well, in Abraham's case, you're hearing the Holy Spirit. You're hearing the voice of the Most High God, not just other spirits. But this is what Abraham's hearing. He's hearing the Lord right now. And the Lord said unto Abraham, wherefore did Sarah laugh, saying, shall I assuredly bear a child, which am old? Is there anything too hard for Yahweh the Lord? At the time appointed, I will return unto thee according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. And then Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And he said, nay, but thou didst laugh. Because once upon a time, Abraham laughed within himself a couple chapters ago concerning his age. So, like husband, like wife, one flesh. Verse 16. And the men arose from thence and looked forward and looked towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, Yahweh, shall I hide Abraham from the thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him, and he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord, to do justice and judgment, the Lord may bring upon Abraham, and which he has spoken unto him. And the Lord said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me. And if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from thence and went toward Sodom, but Abram stood yet before the Lord. So, that was basically the mission of the three men that came through. They're basically going to go spy and investigate the city, see if the cries and the spirit, no different than the blood of oh my goodness, the blood of Abel, no different than the blood of Abel crying to the Most High from the ground. There's a certain spirituality that these territories, and I'm pretty sure the bloodshed that was there as well too within Sodom and Gomorrah, that was there crying out to the Most High about all the sins. And just like what we read about in the couple chapters before about the iniquity of the Amorites in the land of Canaan, the Most High is long-suffering. So at this point in time, the iniquity of the Amorites has not even been fulfilled. But the iniquity of Sodom and Gomorrah, at this point in time, it was fulfilled. It was fulfilled, and the Most High is now going to get an eyewitness account with these angels, these men that were sent to go look at the city and give the verified and confirmed report. And at this point in time, I'm not going to read it, but Abraham's basically like, hey, not only is my nephew Lot over there, but like, are you really going to destroy like a whole city? Because you got to consider too, Abraham was entreated by the king of Sodom when he came back from the war to get his nephew back from that region. And then king of Sodom, he showed him some respect. He's like, oh my goodness, like thank you, for doing unto me these things and getting my substance back. But Abraham we already read it. Abraham wasn't really buying it, but he's like, look, I'm not I didn't do it for you. I did it for my kinsmen. But even now, Abraham's like, hey man, are you gonna destroy this whole city? What if what if there's some righteous people that live there, like 50, And he goes down the list, and most High is basically saying like, look, for 50 people, I want to destroy them. I want to destroy the city. And he's like, okay, what about 40? And he's like, for 40 people, I want to destroy the city. And he's just going down the line to like, okay, what if there's 10 righteous people within Sodom and Gomorrah? It's like, Abraham, with 10 people living in this city righteous, I'll hold back. I won't destroy the place. You know, for 10 righteous people's sake, I will spare the city for their sake. Verse 32 in chapter 18, just for you guys to hear yourself. And he said, oh, let not the Lord be angry. This is Abraham. And I will speak, but this once. Peradventure shall 10 people be found there. And he said, I will not destroy for 10's sake. And the Lord went his way. And as soon as he had left communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned unto his place. So now you have this. There came 2 angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat, and this is, from the perspective of Lot, not Abraham. And Lot sat at the gate of Sodom. So, Lot wasn't necessarily part of the city. He sat at the gate. So the threshold, basically, from the entrance to going into Sodom and obviously the exit. So Lot was basically on the threshold of that. He dwelt on the outer reaches, because he wasn't trying to be involved with the peoples there anyway. And Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot, seeing them, rose. Excuse me, let me turn this off. Rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face. Excuse me. And he said, I pray you into your servant's house and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night. So Lot has that same principle coming from the same stock of hospitality as Abraham. So he's like, hey, y'all, come through. And he's seen these angels as they were as men. And as you read throughout the scriptures, you never could really tell. The angels of the Most High, angels in general, they can, for lack of a better phrase, they can shapeshift your perception to seeing them as people, so they can blend in and do what they got to do better and more efficiently. Some of the angels, other angels are more abrupt in their appearance and have more fearful looks to them. But these particular ones, they came in the form of men, but still angels nonetheless. And Lot is like saying, hey, come through, I'm gonna be hospitable to you, wash yourselves, come eat with me, and we'll figure this thing out. But the angels are like, no, we're gonna stay in the street and see, we're gonna dwell within the city, within Sodom. But now Lot's kind of just like, nah, you don't want to do that. Nah. Let me just look. You don't want to do that. Come to the house with me, and we're gonna figure things out. But yeah, you don't want to do that. So let's get his words. Verse 3, and he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him and entered into the house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. Verse 4, but before they lay down, so just before the feast was done, and like, okay, it's bedtime. It's probably like 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Let's actually go to sleep. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. So everybody, again, like old, young, men and women, everybody is at this point now here. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men that came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And that know is talking about when you know what the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah were. That Sodom and Gomorrah were known for their sexual sins. And that's further proven by later on in the book of Leviticus. In the book of Leviticus, the Most High instructs Moses to instruct the children of Israel, look, after the doings of the people, don't do these things. And it gives, in Leviticus 18, and I believe 23, it gives a list of like, look, don't do all sexual acts, because guess what? The nations that live amongst you, they do them. Everything from incest to bestiality to adultery to and incest again is inclusive of your own daughters or kids, your brothers and sisters and your parents. Homosexuality, which is what this story is mostly portrayed to be because of the people that were given in here, and just all other sorts of things. And when you look and really the history with that is there's this thing called in the history of all these pagan nations, they practiced in the worship of their gods these things called sacred prostitution or sacred prostitution, basically, where they don't necessarily, I mean, I'm pretty sure some of them did a lot of these sexual acts because they did want to do it and they liked it, but ritualistically to serve the things that they serve and the gods they serve, ritualistically they did these practices, because it was a form of the custom that their god that they serve. So Sodom and Gomorrah definitely, some of the underlying layers and wraps, we understand how these more ancient civilizations worked. They were definitely involved in cults, sacred cult. It's not really sacred, but cult prostitution, stuff like that, like occult prostitution, which is deal with illicit sexual means. And these men were definitely about to be, these angels, these men were about to be, they wanted them to be subject to that, because that was just how the city went. That's just the spirit of that city, and how they went about doing those things. I'm pretty sure there was some type of inhospitable ritual that was going along with it, And they called unto Lot and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us so that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them and shut the door after him and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not yet known men. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing. So now you can kind of see, like, Lot's rationality with doing that. At the end of the day, it doesn't make it right. But that's also too why Lot wasn't chosen for the covenant. He wasn't the one that God chose, because if it was Abraham in that case, Abraham wouldn't even have offered his own daughters in righteousness, just to circumvent basically the whole the cultic gang raping of these angels or these men with his own daughters. It still wouldn't have made it better or right. But again, that's just the history. That doesn't make Lot rational reasoning correct. It's just he thought he could soothe and absolve the problem, but even that didn't work, because again, the men of Sodom and Gomorrah, due to their customs and such like that, they had an agenda. They had an agenda. They had something they needed to accomplish, according to the spirit of that town and of that city. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not yet known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them unto you, and do ye to them as it is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore they came under the shadow of my roof. Like they're sojourners. I'm being hospitable. And they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. So now they're about to get Lot involved in this this ritual cultic, fornication sex act as well too. Is that, look, just because you try to defend them, we're gonna get you too. We're gonna get you involved with this. And now, let the motorcycle pass by. And now the angels are about to show forth their true might through the Most High and show their true power. But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot in the house to them and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness. So that's not something that any average man can do. Again, these were messengers and angels of the Most High. They had certain abilities and powers to them that they utilized on these people. Because again, they were spying out the land. They knew what was up. The Most High sent them, so they knew what they were doing when they said, we're going to sit in the street of the city. And they knew what was going to happen, because they knew exactly what was going to happen, but just Lot had stalled it. Lot has stalled it. I'm pretty sure there was some type of exchange that was going on between him and his house to where he was trying to like play both sides, but both sides wasn't playing at this moment. And the angels knew it because, again, the sins of that city had came up to the voice of the Most High. It was only a matter of time. They had assumed a form that obviously was the wickedness of the men in the city could not resist, and practicing their cultic practices on. So they got blind. Verse 12. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city? Bring them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, the borders and the gates and all. We will destroy them out of this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord. And the Lord has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, get you up out of this place, for the Lord will destroy the city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, arise, take thy wife, and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of this city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, escape for thy life. Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. So even more than just the borders of the city was about to be destroyed, they said, even plains, everything where I'm sure where the animals were, because again, even though the initial sight, with coming into the men and even Lot themselves was homosexuality, you got to understand this is in the likeness of when Moses and even Joshua had to destroy a lot of the nations that were within Canaan as well too. When the Most High said, "Look, you need to destroy men, women, houses, the cattle, like everything was defiled. Something about the culture and the custom of the people was just so out of whack that the whole land had to be just completely decimated and destroyed. There's probably so much blood, guilt, and defiled blood within, not only within the people, within the land itself. The Most High said, look, from the city itself to the plains, which people shepherd in, you need to get to the mountain. The mountain is like, obviously, a mountain. When you look at a plain, you got flatlands, and then the mountain summit up to the mountain. All that was getting destroyed. The city beyond and all that. So he said, you got to get to this mountain, man, because even the plains is bad, whatever they was doing there, which if you study enough history, you can figure that out. Verse 20. Behold, now this city is near. No, verse 19. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me, and I die. Behold, now this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he said unto him, see, I accepted thy concerning this thing. Also, that I will not overthrow this city for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered Zoar. And then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. So something, we don't know exactly what it is. That's what we can use, but something powerful from the skies got rained upon these people. And if you look into enough ufology and stuff like that, more than likely the Most High sent some of his chariots or the UFOs to do some type of high-tech, supernatural to us, supernatural destruction from these UFOs upon this city. So something magnificent, something miraculous through the Most High's vehicles to destroy the city. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him and she became a pillar of salt. And that pillar of salt from that wife, when you look into the modern day region of where Sodom and Gomorrah is, you can still see Lot's wife as a pillar of salt to this day, just standing up. It has that odd, queer human shape to it, and it's just like, why is this literally pillar of salt, sodium, whatever the scientific terms they want to call the minerals, today? Why is it just here? Because that was Lot's wife, and it's a testament to this day. No different than Sodom and Gomorrah as a testament to this day, which would never ever grow anything from the city itself to the plains. The land would never have anything to grow, and it's still smoking to this day with the weapons of the Most High upon it. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord. And he looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah and towards all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot dwelt. So, let's see. In these next couple chapters, you see that the birth of the nations of Moab and Ammon. You could read that on your guys' own within the rest of this chapter. You're going to see another instance in chapter 20 where Abraham is dwelling in another land, in Kadesh and Shur, and he does the same thing with Sarai, his wife, unto this king named Abimelech. He doesn't let him know that Sarah is his wife, but he just says like, "Oh, you're my sister." And again, Abraham's reasoning is this: say, look, a lot of the times when I go into these places, I know y'all are more than likely not God-fearing. So if you knew she was my wife, you guys would just kill me and just, circumvent or compass the law of, oh, we're not going to commit adultery. We're not that evil. But if we kill you, then your wife is no longer married to a husband. That's how much Abraham distrusted the peoples that he was around, just the peoples of the world, period, because they did not serve the Lord thy God. He knew people worked in deceit and would do anything to feign righteousness. Like, oh, we're not going that far, but we'll do this to get it to circumnavigate adultery. Abraham knew that people would kill him just to take his wife. So that's why he twice with the Egyptians and with some of these Canaanite people, he does the same thing. And the Most High, does the same thing too. He's about to plague the people, like, hey, you're about to commit adultery. In the case of Abimelech, though, he actually, in this case, was righteous in that regards. And then, he makes a covenant with Abraham, and they're actually kind of cool for some generations. So you can read that in chapter 20 and chapter 21. And actually in chapter 21, is the birth of Isaac. And in the birth of Isaac, that's where this lesson comes to an end. So hopefully, in my reading and some historical understanding, you guys got some edification outside of this lesson. And that's all we got to say. We're going to continue on with the story next week. Y'all will see me, should see me, Most High willing, in the next 2 Wednesdays, back to back, covering these early accounts in Genesis. But again, today was from Abraham to Isaac. We're going to continue on with Isaac and a little bit more of Abraham next week. So with that, you guys, I'm going to say good day, whether it's night, morning, or noon. Good day to you, and shalom.